Monday, March 2nd, 2026, calling the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. April, has anyone signed up to speak?
There is no one signed up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the second item, the selection of the new City Council Planning and Development Committee liaison. Jocelyn, do you want to tell people a little bit what's involved with this?
I wasn't prepared. The Planning and Development Committee is one of four, I guess, kind of advisory committees. It's made up of the City Council, and so I believe it's 4 members of the City Council. Usually the whole City Council comes, but it's Planning and Development, and then there's Audit and Finance, Community Services, and Transportation and Natural Resources. So those are the 4 committees. So this committee is focused on planning, economic development, sometimes a little bit of code, but they see a lot of the presentations that housing may provide, economic development maybe have some incentives, or one of the ones they've been doing recently are some of the small business activities and assistance programs. So, and then of course with us, all of our amendments, all of our proposals. So it's just literally the planning and development topics that will come through. Typically, we go to them first just to say these are our ideas. Do you want us to move forward? Do you not want us to move forward? And they'll give us their opinion, and then we take it from there and put it into something where we start bringing it to y'all and move up through the process. So their planning and development is kind of the first place where we bring ideas to them, or they tell us they want us to prepare something, we put something together and bring it back to them. So that's what this is. This is kind of the first stop of all the various proposals through economic development, housing, and planning.
And it's scheduled every other month?
Lately, it's about every other meeting. So there used to be 5 committees, now there's 4. So if there's 2 meetings a month, then yes, it's once a month, because there's 2 committee meetings each Thursday. So it'd be once a month if we have 2 meetings a month. So it just depends on how many council meetings we have a month as to whether it's each month or every other. So it just depends.
And it's usually a morning meeting, work session. It is recorded.
It's recorded but not televised.
Correct.
Yeah, it'll start normally either at 8:30 or 10. The
Yeah.
city manager decides which one goes first. We've done both. Normally we start at 10, but we've done both. So the liaison would just come to those meetings if you're able and take notes and just prepare to report back to the Planning and Zoning Commission what they talked about, and especially anything that may be of interest to the commission, specifically any future activities or proposals that you might see.
Great. Ordinarily, the secretary serves in that role. April has done it for several years. I don't know if you'd like to continue to do that, or if anybody else would like to volunteer. Monday in the mornings. I generally go. I don't know if anybody else would like to officially be appointed. It's up to you all. Any thoughts?
If nobody wants to be appointed, I'll be glad to be the liaison.
Any problems? Okay. Ricky Lightfoot it is. All right, moving on to the next agenda item, report on the City Council Planning and Development Committee meetings on November, January, and January 2 meetings.
So
I didn't bring notes. So,
I know.
I would have been happy to provide, but I
brought
didn't.
some
I'm sorry. I didn't think about
No, that's
bringing my
fine.
notes.
And we didn't, and thanks to Carolyn for reminding us, we hadn't put the November on one of the past meetings. That's why we're kind of backing up a little bit. So I did bring some of the topics for those 3 meetings that we had. And I can expand, of course, on our topics, not as much on the other topics, but I can let you know it was discussed. So in November, one of the titles was the Economic Development Toolbox, Small Business Interest Buy-Down Grant Program Update. So they're just, the economic development staff is it's another incentive they're trying to do to build small business support. Overview of the Board of Adjustment. We gave a presentation on, which we've done before, what is the Board of Adjustment, variances, special exceptions, difference between, a hardship and the other considerations. That was mostly for the benefit, just a reminder for the existing council members, but for the benefit of the new council members to understand what the Board of Adjustments role is. And the last one was the Unified Development Code amendments for carports, which of course, those have been completed. January 14th, the topics were the North Nursery Corridor Neighborhood Plan, which you're going to see tonight. Short-term rental regulations update. That was the first proposal to the City Council. It was followed up with a presentation just with some more ideas on how to proceed, which is what they're working on now. At the last meeting, the council did discuss on different options for regulating short-term rentals, and so we'll be bringing those to y'all as we get a little bit more finite direction from them. Because it was brought to Planning and Development Committee first, and then was brought back to work session. And the last one was the guidelines and criteria for tax abatements. That was in preparation for an approval done at the last meeting, just to clean up some of the tax abatement policies. And then lastly, on the January 29th Planning and Development Committee meeting, there was, they brought back the guidelines and criteria for tax abatement. They didn't get to those on the January 14th meeting. The inspections director did a lengthy overview of the building permit process. There had been a request from one of the council members just to give an idea, y'all in council see a lot of what the CIP and the people who build things, and that they know what they do, but they were trying to get an idea of what some of the other departments do on a day-to-day basis. So that's what this was, is just to let them know who their staff is, what the process is from application of a building permit through inspections. And so I think that went well. There was discussion on the public parking in the Las Colinas Urban Center. This was another item that a council member had been requesting, hearing concerns about parking issues and looking at ways to maybe utilize some of the existing parking garages and get into agreements with some of the owners of the other parking garages. So the Economic Development staff has done an inventory of the parking garages out there, maybe looking at some places for surface parking that may or may not work. But it was just having an updated analysis of what is available for the customers to park. And then lastly, one of our items was to look at the boundaries of the Heritage Crossing District. There was a request, again, from a council member to relook, and you'll see it tonight in your presentation for the Heritage Crossing District, that when it was brought in, there were two areas kind of on either side of the railroad that were included in the district. So it's north of the railroad, but then it's kind of that triangle area. And they just asked us to reconsider the northeast area, whether it's a lot more industrial, auto repair. So they asked us to look into that and gave us direction to start processing, removing that out of the Heritage Crossing District, which will involve a neighborhood meeting, notifications, and that type of thing.
Great, thanks. In your packets, you should have the report on the city council meeting decisions of February 12th and 26th. Anyone have any questions about the city council votes on previous cases? Okay, great. Moving on to the review of the public hearing items.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have, first of all, acknowledgement that today is March 2nd, so it's 190th Texas Independence Day. So yay, happy day. Then on consent agenda, we have approval of the February 2nd and February 16th P&Z minutes, and one plat, 2026-5-PL, Quaid Edition Number 2. Then we have two for disapproval, and those are on your agenda. They're disapproval because basically they're going to need zoning cases first in order to replat the way they want to. So be happy to answer any questions about those plats. Okay. In that case, the first item is 2025-458-ZC, which was actually postponed from your last agenda.
Hi, Dylan Harvey, presenting zoning case 2025-458ZC. As Ken said, this case was postponed from last meeting. They are still going from RZLL to SP2 for RZLA for a request for a variance to the rear and side setbacks for a patio. Staff finds no unnecessary hardship, and there's been none support our opposite comments. Here's a aerial, the zoning cases, zoning map, and notification, and the site plan, as you can see here in the red. This was previously what was requested. They're going ahead and adding this one as well. There's a subject property, neighborhood, surrounding neighborhood. And then pictures taken by code enforcement underneath the side yard patio cover. The applicant, depending on how the zoning case goes, if it's approved, it would be cut back to right about here, about 5 feet from the brick wall here. And then the side yard from the other side. You can kind of see the rear back there. It would also be cut back to right about that beam right there, which is, again, 5 feet from the rear of the house. And then, any questions?
Wasn't this the case that was brought to us and they were cooperative as far as taking down the side and they just wanted to keep the back portion?
The other way around. They want to keep the side to cut that down to 5 feet, and then initially the request was to take off the rear. There's some miscommunication, and they actually want to keep part of the rear part of the rear cover, and they agreed to cut it 5 feet to stay off the encore easement to the rear of the lot as well.
Okay.
Did you have pictures of the back as well, like as you do on the side?
No, sorry, code didn't get any photos of those, of that rear cover.
Thanks.
Can you explain to me just the technical reasons for gutters and the drainage, because that was noted in the case notes?
Typically a comment that we'll get from the CIP department that the drainage from the stormwater must be drained out to wherever the house drains out to prevent any lot-to-lot drainage. So in this case, I believe the gutters would have to point towards the street. So
How was this discovered?
code enforcement, I believe they were called for a different reason, and they happened to discover the two patio covers.
Okay, so they were already built?
Yeah, they, looks by aerials, looks like they were built sometime in the summer to fall of 2025. Code enforcement had discovered them on October 15th, right around there.
And there haven't been any complaints about them?
None that were been made aware of.
So there's no issue with the neighbors or nothing like that? None of the neighbors have?
There's been no formal complaints, either written or phone calls that we've received.
And it looks like they're not even viewable from the street due to the way the fence, if you go back to that picture, back up. Back up, back up, back up. Okay, stop. So it looks like it's under the height of the fence, so it's not even viewable from the street, correct? It is.
I believe a part of the top portion would be visible if you're standing just directly up the street at the right angle. But typically, it looks like the fence matches the height.
Instead of that overhang extending across what appears to be a driveway, does that mean the driveway is going to be rendered like you couldn't bring a car across it because there'll be something supporting that roof in the middle of that driveway?
Due to the nature, can you want to?
Yeah, technically it's a patio cover because this is a zero lot line home, so what you're looking at is if you can show the 5 feet that needs to be cut off. No, just on that picture.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. So,
So that 5 feet, is that right there, that's the boundary line of where the, there's an access easement to that house that's on the left side of the picture there for their maintenance. So that's why the patio cover, even if it's approved, would have to be cut back to the 5 feet level. So that's why I say it's really may look like a driveway, may have been used like that at one point in time, but technically it is a patio is how we would view it, and this would be a patio cover. And same thing in the back, you can't really see, but from the next picture, yeah, you could, where you see that, there's power lines back there, and Encore's basically said, just, you need to move it out of our easement, so that's why the 5 feet back on the rear property.
So they're
And they
gonna,
understand this, so.
so they're gonna have to cut off part of this regardless?
Yes, and they understand that.
Okay, it's just a matter of how far they're cutting it back.
It's a matter of, do they cut it back 5 feet, or do they remove it altogether? And
Will you remove it all together and remove it to the sort of the middle line there? Is that, or,
no, if you approve it, they could
Go to the middle
have it
line.
at the midpoint
Okay.
of both of those. If you don't, then it's a violation of the setback, and then they'd have to remove the whole thing.
Okay.
I should say that they did offer to remove some of it ahead of time. Staff advised them that for the sake of cost, that they may want to wait till after the P and Z and council hearing, so that if they had to get somebody to come out to remove part or all of it, they only had to get the person to come out once, not twice. So that was something we did for them.
On the letter of intent, the applicant indicates along the lines that this is for his enjoyable use of space of exterior, of outdoors, and for his family and children. But this looks more like a dumpster. And I don't know if I can support this after looking at these pictures, because then what are we doing? I mean, just providing them with a cover to put their trash out there? And so I don't think that's what the letter of intent indicates, and so.
What was the original call out for from code enforcement that brought this to their attention?
I've forgotten the reason. Talked to the person in code, and they mentioned it briefly. We were mainly talking about the patio covers.
Go ahead, Gerald. It's a real quick question on the comment from CIP. Is that, if we were to approve this, do we have to add that as a condition, or is that handled elsewhere?
The gutters,
Yeah, the gutters.
that'd be handled elsewhere.
Okay.
Make sure it's done with the building permit,
Thanks.
or alteration permit.
So, what did you respond to Commissioner's Lightfoot question in regards to what originated the call to this?
I don't recall. When I talked to code enforcement about it, we mainly talked about the rear patio covers. We didn't talk about the initial reason on why they were out at the site. The applicant is here tonight, and they'll be able to answer any additional questions you might have.
I can try to find that answer for you before the end of this work session meeting. So,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. Zoning case 2026-7-ZC.
This one is also mine. I'll be presenting this case. They're going from CC to SP1 for RAB for on-premise consumption of alcohol and CC uses. Staff recommendation is approval, and there have been no comments in support or opposition. Here's a aerial. Again, is this suite right here within this retail shopping center. The future land use map, zoning notification map, their site plan. It's over here. In total, there's roughly, this would count as the fourth entity that would be in this retail shopping center. The highway, FedEx office to the east, the big shopping retail center to the back, and to the west, another multi-retail shopping center. And then any questions? The operator would be Velvet Taco. They're just asking for on-premise consumption of alcohol to go with the tacos.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you.
Development Plan 2026-14-DVP. This is a final action tonight from us.
And while Gina comes up, to answer Commissioner Lightfoot to your question, it was a proactive, not a reactive, it was a proactive code enforcement action where they were looking at there was outside storage associated with building materials, so it was probably the building materials that were being used to construct those patio covers in the first place based on the timing. There's nothing else in the preceding 3 years on that property.
By that, you mean that, how did it come to the city's attention, are you saying?
Essentially, it's a proactive, meaning they drive,
They just
code
happened
enforcement
upon
just
it.
drive by. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not a reactive.
There
complaint.
wasn't a complaint?
Correct.
Oh, good? Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Gina Costanza Grant with the Planning Department, presenting case 2026-14 DVP located at 7612 Lake Crest Circle. The property is within PUD 3, Ken West. They have a development plan, second revision for both RZLA or zero lot line homes and R75 homes. The request is to amend that DP to allow for a variance to the minimum rear yard setback for an accessory structure. The staff does not have an objection due to the permit being previously approved and the structure built. We did receive 2 public comment forms in support and none in opposition. And this is the aerial of the proposed property. You can see it's located adjacent to the Hackberry Creek Golf Course. So their backyard butts right up to the golf course. A little bit closer in, they do also have a wrought iron fence on that rear yard. This is the future land use map, zoning map, owner notification map for the 200-foot boundary, and this is the proposed site plan. In just a little history, in May of 2025, the owners came in for a permit, and it was for an accessory detached patio cover. And the permit was approved and issued in June of 2025. The owners then went ahead and constructed the patio cover. They came in for some minor renovations in December. And at that time, it was realized that the structure actually exceeded the maximum height for a 5-foot setback, which is what it was approved for. Because of that, normally if an accessory structure is 10 feet in height, they are allowed to observe that 5-foot setback. However, for any amount of height over 10 feet, they have to move the structure an additional foot back. We believe there might have been some confusion on the part of whoever was reviewing the plan at the time. That person is actually no longer with the city, but this is a peaked roof, and when there's a peaked roof, the height is actually measured to the mean between the eave and the very top. So we are imagining that what was probably done is the height was measured to the eave, thinking it was 10 feet, and that permit was issued. So in any case, when they did come in for that revision to the plan and realized the height was in excess of that setback allowance, we advised them that they needed to go through the zoning process for a variance. This is the chart just showing that normally for the height, which is calculated actually at 13 feet, they would have to be 8 feet back instead of 5 feet back. This is a little bit closer look at the area in question. So they have the cover that came out here and lines up exactly with what they thought was the correct setback at 5 feet. The red line shows where it should be at 8 feet. And In addition, they also did get approval from the Las Colinas Association before they ever came to the city. So they do have approval on that end. The city does not have any objections since the permit was issued with an error, and the neighbors have issued also around them 2 letters of support. Again, the Planning and Zoning Commission does have final action on this particular plan, and I'm happy to take any questions you have. Let's go through the pictures real quick. This is the front of the house. We weren't able to get into the neighborhood. It is private streets, but we got some of these pictures from either the applicant or code enforcement, or inspections, I'm sorry. This is looking directly at the patio cover. You can see here is the 5-foot setback from the wrought iron fence on the rear property line. This is looking at the patio enclosure and kind of at the south. This would be the south side yard. And this is the north side yard. So this is looking from the front of the house toward the backyard. You can just see a slight bit of the cover from there. And again, happy to answer any questions you all might have.
So just to clarify things, this is a citizen who went through the process, did everything properly, filed all the proper paperwork, did everything, and this is just an oversight based upon a planning examiner that just didn't catch it and approved it.
Correct.
So, okay.
Yeah, it was an inspections plans examiner. It was issued in error. He didn't take into account that additional setback for the height.
That's fine. I mean, it's built, the people went through the process, so this is something that I can support. I mean, nobody complains about it, and
One thing I may point out is, if you notice from the photos, what they built does not match that site plan. Can you go back to that site plan?
Oh, sure.
And that's really how we became aware of it. They started calling for inspections. The inspector went out and said, okay, you're not building what was issued. So in reality, see how they're curved. Architects love making curved things, but they're very difficult to build that way. So they've actually squared that off. It's just a gable end. And so I think at the closest point, they will be 5 feet, but they're not going to be the consistent 5 feet. They're not going to be able to be as far back as that curve. It's going to have to be squared off if you look at those photos. So I think that this shows more of an encroachment than what's actually out there on the ground.
yeah, it looks like, based upon the plan, it looks like they simplified it. Like you said, curves get very expensive to do. So it looks like they simplified it back, and based upon the pictures, it looks like there's one post and that little fire thing or whatever that is, that looks like the only 2 encroachments that are there. Is that correct?
I believe so. Just that far edge of it.
And part of the roof.
Yes.
And all the neighbors and the association, everybody's okay with everything?
Well, we did get the 2 letters of support, and they did get approval from LCA. So.
Okay. I can support this.
Is it also wider than it was originally planned? I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know if that's the fireplace right there in the middle that you can see there on the brick, and then on the plans, it looks like it was supposed to end at the fireplace, if I look at that correctly.
I think I'd have to go back.
Yeah, that looks correct. It looks like it was originally stopping at the edge of the fireplace or at the far edge of the fireplace, and now it looks like it's going a little bit further.
And you all mentioned, I think, that you all received some calls about people complaining that they wanted somebody to check it out because it looked like.
No, this was discovered by an inspections inspector because they were called out for an inspection. And they saw that what was built did not match the approved site plan, and so they had to submit revised plans which showed the gable end, and the plans examiner, a different plans examiner, told them you're going to have to, your height is causing you to need to be further away. So he's the one that told them, you've got to get a variance.
So it was the property owner who asked the inspections person to come out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the GC.
Yeah.
He requested
Yeah.
an inspection. They came out. I don't know if it was electrical or if it was a framing inspector, but they told him, hey, you need to stop what you're doing and get a variance for the location.
So in regards, because it's going to be wider than it is showing here, does that require another variance?
It shouldn't, because now it's squared off there on the back, so actually most of that cover is going to be further away from the 5 feet than what's shown here, because that curve, it's kind of hugging that 5-foot line. Now the closest point will be up there at the 5-foot line, and it's a 90-degree angle across. So actually, more of the cover appears to be that it'll be further away from the 5-foot line or the property line than what was shown here on the original site plan.
Do we charge them an additional fee for this since it was an error initially?
We did not charge a fee for this.
Thank you. Everybody set? All right, last case is 2026-21-ZC, which has been postponed to our next meeting in April, but we're happy to hear the case for now.
Yeah, this is, actually, we have very little in your packet for you because there's basically nothing, unlike sometimes where it's still a choice of the P and Z, basically you have no choice but to postpone because the sign was not properly posted. Actually, got FOs today. It has now been properly posted, so will be for the next P and Z meeting, but the only action on this one is for postponement to the April 6th date, and that way it's no re-advertisement. So,
Then we'll wait for details next month.
okay.
Okay, any questions on the cases for tonight, folks? No? Okay. Abraham, you're up. Yes. North Nursery Corridor Neighborhood Plan.
Good evening, everyone. Abraham Soria with the Planning Department, and I made it. We're here. So today I'm providing an overview of the North Nursery Corridor Neighborhood Plan. The purpose of this presentation is to explain why the plan was created, summarize residents and business input, and walk through the land use recommendations and community priorities that resulted from the planning process. This plan is intended to guide future zoning and development discussions and support long-term decision-making. It does not approve projects or require immediate action. The Nursery Corridor was selected for several reasons. There was existing neighborhood leadership, including former leaders from 4 neighborhood associations who were engaged. There are also the area also contains aging homes and apartment complexes that are likely to face reinvestment or redevelopment pressure over time. The area sits near SH 183 and Loop 12, close to Heritage Crossing and Pot 6. This made it an appropriate area to have a proactive land use conversation. The community participation was the foundation of this plan. Outreach began in August 2022 with a postcard survey mailed to about 3,900 households, resulting in 139 completed surveys. From September 2022 through June 2023, staff held 10 monthly public meetings that were open to all residents. Additional outreach included events at local schools, a survey booth at La Michoacana, and door-to-door interviews with 24 businesses. In April 2025, staff presented the draft plan at the final public meeting attended by 60 residents in both English and Spanish. Materials were also shared online so residents could stay informed throughout the process. Residents were consistent in their feedback. Key concerns included parking and speeding, broken or missing sidewalks, safety in parks, aging housing, code issues, and rising rent without improved quality. Residents also shared constructive ideas such as support for small housing options, mixed-use development, community cleanups, and urban farming. Overall, residents focused on practical, everyday quality of life issues. Businesses share similar concerns. More than half of employees live in the neighborhood and work on site. While most businesses are stable, many express concerns about neighborhood appearance, sidewalk conditions, lighting, and safety. These reinforce the land use decision and reinvestment matter for both residents and businesses. At the final public meeting, residents reviewed the draft plan and confirmed earlier feedback. They emphasized safety improvements such as speed bumps, crosswalks, lighting, and police visibility. They also asked for better apartment conditions, support for small housing options, park near apartments, covered bus stops, and better access to grocery and health services. Residents understand that many older homes and apartments will eventually need reinvestment. The key issue is how and where change happens. They support redevelopment in appropriated locations while preserving single-family homes and neighborhood character. This plan provides context and guidance when future zoning or redevelopment requests come forward. The community's vision is to strengthen what already works while guiding change over time. Residents support transforming parts of the nursery corridor into low-density, mixed-use community villages located along major corridors. These areas will combine housing, small retail, and services in a pedestrian-friendly setting, while continuing to protect traditional residential neighborhoods. The intent is to guide future development in a way that fits the neighborhood and improves everyday quality of life. Here, the focus is on Nursery Road, which residents see as the most appropriate place to guide future change. They support low-density, mixed-use redevelopment in a community village form if redevelopment occurs. The goal is to replace older multifamily buildings with modern housing and neighborhood-serving uses. This section addresses the eastern entry along Growler Road. Because the area already includes apartments, duplexes, a church, and retail, residents support a community village approach if redevelopment happens. Improving this entry is also seen as a way to address appearance and safety concerns. This recommendation centers on the village at the crossroads along Cal Road. Residents see this location as appropriate for either a community village or improved multifamily housing due to its existing density and access. In this case, residents discussed the site only in the context of a future redevelopment scenario. If redevelopment ever occurs, they prefer it be treated as part of the commercial corridor along Airport Freeway to reduce pressure on nearby homes. Along this corridor, attention is given to Rabel Place apartments near the railroad. Residents support a community village approach where if redevelopment occurs, especially given its proximity to downtown and existing infrastructure. At this location, the emphasis is on preserving existing offices and retail as local commercial. Allowing small manufacturing or warehouses uses near Pioneer Road helps create a buffer between residential areas and the Owens Corning plant. The Pulse apartment should remain multifamily, while the shopping center near La Michoacana should remain local commercial, but be improved over time. The single-family homes along E. Pioneer drive across from Owens Corning should be allowed to transition into local commercial uses due to the incompatibility of large truck parking along the street on regular basis. Let's see, at this intersection, the plan recommends local commercial. This destination aligns with nearby properties and supports neighborhood-serving businesses rather than more intensive commercial uses. Beyond land use, residents also highlighted the importance of parks and open space. They support a small pocket park near Muslins, Holly, and Nursery Road, and want Rose Meadows Park and Horwitz Park clearly identified and protected. These recommendations respond to long-standing compatibility concerns. Manufacturing and warehouse uses along Nursery Road are seen as an appropriate transition between industrial activity and nearby single-family homes. One of the strongest messages from residents was the distinction between east and west of Nursery Road. West of Nursery Road, compact housing is generally acceptable. East of Nursery Road, residents want to preserve traditional neighborhood character and oppose lot assembly and subdivision. This slide introduces the community priorities that came out of the planning process. Residents and local business owners shaped these priorities together with a strong agreement around what would make the neighborhood safer, stronger, and more vibrant. The next slides will outline the full list of community priorities identified through this effort. These priorities were initially discussed as potential project ideas. However, based on City Council feedback, the plan has been refined to clearly communicate that they are not a city to-do list or a commitment to fund projects. Instead, they reflect shared expectations and a flexible partnership-based approach to implementation where progress depends on funding, capacity, and collaboration over time. This slide shows two community priorities that focus on how residents and the city work together, not on new regulations. First is the community engagement. Residents want better communication and cleaner guidance, especially around how to report code issues, how to contact staff, and how schools can play a role in community involvement. The second is cleanliness and beautification. This is about keeping neighborhood clean and cared for through community cleanups, better litter reporting, and shared responsibility for public spaces. For education, residents want stronger partnerships with the schools, more after-school opportunities, and support systems that help young people succeed. For housing, this priority focuses on improving existing housing conditions, helping residents understand rehabilitation programs, and supporting opportunities for homeownership. For pedestrian safety and mobility, residents want safer sidewalks, better crossing, and improved access for people for all ages and abilities. This includes reporting poor sidewalks conditions and prioritizing repairs where there is high foot traffic, such as near schools and commercial areas. For parks and public spaces, residents want safer parks, better lighting, and improved recreational facilities. They also emphasize the importance of visible police presence in park areas to help address safety concerns. Residents want to attract new neighborhood servicing businesses while also helping current businesses succeed. This includes better lighting, improved parking areas, and reinvestment in aging shopping centers. They also express interest in everyday services, such as general market or grocery option, if opportunity arises. Overall, this priority is about stabilization and reinvestment, not large-scale commercial expansion. For safety, residents want better lighting, increased visibility, and a stronger relationship between neighborhoods and law enforcement. They also express interest in programs that help residents understand how police operate and how to engage constructively. For traffic and transit, residents raise concerns about parking, vehicles that are not working, and speeding. They want better enforcement, clearer reporting, and safer conditions on neighborhood streets. Now, this slide is about setting clear and realistic expectations. Community priorities identified in this plan are not automatically funded. Any future projects will continue to move through the city's normal budgeting process and may advance only if funding, grants, or partnerships are available. Many efforts can be community-led, with nonprofits, schools, faith-based groups, or residents taking the lead, while the city provides guidance or coordination when practical. Residents involved in the process understand that progress will be gradual and based on timing and resources. Nothing in this plan requires the city to begin any project immediately. Any questions?
I got a couple for you. By us making this land use change, anything that's tore down or redeveloped into this area has to follow this plan, correct?
So a land use plan is only a guide. If whatever is torn down and you want to rebuild it, that would be consistent with the zoning. So you can have multifamily zoning and land use industrial, you still have that multifamily entitlement. So just changing the land use does not change what someone could build if something is torn down. It's all about the zoning.
I've gotten a lot of calls on this one, but how much flexibility will people have as far as development in these areas? To the land use.
Again, it's about, so the land use plan will help educate us, which will educate y'all and council of, is the zoning that is being requested, if through a rezoning process, is that consistent? Is that moving toward the vision for this neighborhood? If the zoning that you already have, or the property already has, is not consistent with the vision, that's the way it goes. So this kicks into play when a rezoning comes in and we are looking at something saying, is this appropriate here or not? If what is already there is not appropriate, not consistent, it's okay, that's already there.
If I may, I may add something else. Neighborhood planning, or a neighborhood plan basically, is just a way to communicate what people would like to see in the community, not only to the city, but other people who would like to invest within that area. So with that said, it's just, as Jocelyn stated, it's just a guidance book for people to see what support could they have from the community.
I can support all their community priorities. I mean, I understand that. Everything they got is within reason, but the land use, as far as changing some of the commercial to community village, doing stuff like that, there's people that have spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars accommodating properties in these areas. And there's people that own a lot of property in that area that have set up to do future developments in that area. And some of them has come to life already, and some of them are coming in the future. But by changing the land use to this extreme and taking a lot of this commercial and turning it to community villages, I don't know if that is how that's going to affect some of these investors who, like, we don't really like people to buy property and hold it. We prefer them to try to develop it, but a lot of people buy and hold it for tax purposes or future developments or whatever. And I don't know how that's going to affect some of the people in that area. And I've seen one of the things on there, the community priorities, is the ADUs. So we still haven't got that rectified through the city. But I'm just concerned about how this is going to affect future developments moving forward. And taking commercial property that is getting $11, $12, $13, $14 a foot from tax appraisals to dropping it to a residential $6 or $4 a square foot real estate.
So as y'all see, when comprehensive plan, when the CP cases come through, we, say, is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? If it's not, then, of course, the applicant has to do a separate case before the zoning case. So it would, that's where this would kick in, is we would just do that evaluation. This would help educate us, to educate y'all as to, does this forward the plan that has been set in place by, if this is adopted, it would officially be the city council, but the whole neighborhood planning process is intended to be the voice of the neighborhood. So if the neighborhood's vision is this, and what is being proposed through the zoning process is not consistent, we would tell y'all that. But it is still your prerogative to recommend, and council's prerogative to approve whatever you think might be appropriate. And you could deny if a change of the comprehensive plan and keep the zoning. It just depends on what the context is. But I guess you'd have to approve it. Like if someone wants to go to industrial, you'd have to change the future land use back in order to get that industrial zoning, if that's the case, if it was future land use for community village. So what I'm saying is it's just an education. It's just to inform you, is this part of the vision? And if you decide that what's there or what they're proposing is okay, that's your prerogative. We are just trying to create some type of just consistent direction for the area as the zoning cases come through.
But by them making a change, they would have to bring it before us if it's outside what you see as the land use, even though their property states that they can do this or that, correct?
If it is already zoned that way, it already is. It's when they are asking to do something different than what it's zoned is when the future land use kicks in.
Okay.
If they have, ML20, ML20A, and that's what they want to build, it doesn't matter what the future land use says. They have that entitlement to build to whatever that district allows.
Okay.
So is the idea to take what the neighborhood, sort of in the surveying and all, what they've generated as what they'd like to see happening, and modify the comprehensive plan to match that? So, so that then really it's the comprehensive plan that would be being amended like we normally do when we have somebody trying to do something new that's not keeping with it?
Yeah, by formally bringing this through the P and Z and then bringing it through council for approval, and not just discussion or whatever. If council approves this, then this would change the comprehensive plan, just like all those individual CP cases would. It would just change it for the area. That's why doing the formal public hearing notification, we'll put it in the newspaper. That's why that process is so important if we're going to do a formal change on the future land use plan.
Okay, so at that point, if somebody wanted to do a new development that was different than, conflicted with the comprehensive plan and required zoning change, it would again be like we've had in the past, where they'd have the comprehensive plan amendment case that would come before us, as well as the zoning case.
Correct.
Okay. It's just, this would be in the comprehensive plan.
Correct.
Okay, and correct me, Abraham, you said you went out, you sent 3,900 notices out and talked to 24 businesses.
Postcards were sent to 3,900 households, and out of those postcards, we received 139 responses.
Okay, I'd like to go on record right now. I live in this area, and I never received a postcard on this development or this nursery corridor.
We'll check the list and see if you ignored it.
Okay, check the list.
Just saying. Now, these were sent, obviously, this process was started a few years ago. We've been doing this for a little while. We had kind of a slow start because it was the first one trying to get people organized. This is when Kevin Cass, I don't know if you remember Kevin, and then he retired, and then we've hired Abraham, and then he had to get up to speed. So it's taken a little while just because we had a few bumps for various reasons, but we're eager and enthusiastic to get it moving forward, because I think Abraham's done a really good job kind of taking somebody else's work and massaging it the way he's been asked to massage it. And, and the neighborhood has been, at the November Planning and Development Committee, the neighbors actually came and spoke for it. So we didn't ask them to come today, but they were here in June, and they also came back in November to speak to it. So we really like the neighborhood planning process. We think creating this venue, we may have sent out that many postcards and only 100-something people showed up, but we got a lot of surveys in response. I mean, we were, the La Michoacana, we literally stood outside the door on a cold, I think it was a January morning, and we had the Hispanic Chamber help us because of the translation that we needed. And we're like, okay, if you answer the survey, here's a taco, you can have a donut, or here's a taco coupon, or,
That's conflict of interest. That's bribery.
No, we weren't buying their answers, we were buying the survey. No. No, they just, they went down a pad, but, we're learning as we go, but we knew we had to meet everybody where they were. We went to the schools because that's where they were. A lot of people don't want to come to City Hall. It's just intimidating and, for obvious reasons. So we made sure we went to the schools, we went to the grocery stores on a Saturday morning to get as much of the input as we could. And then staff literally went door to door and dropped off flyers to the businesses to try to get the flyers to engage. So we can't force people to click on the QR codes and fill out the survey, but we did what we felt we could do to at least tell people this was going on. We want you to be involved. If you choose not to be involved, then that's the best we could do.
Jocelyn, how many businesses did you all get to participate?
24.
24 businesses.
And I'd like to clarify one thing. Abraham, you're doing a great job. I like your vision. I like what you're bringing and all that. I just think that there's some things that need a little bit more thought process. And I'm just looking out for what I'm getting feedback from regular citizens and looking at the flexibility of designs and being able to develop in these areas where it goes towards what everybody's wanting, but it's also we're encouraging development, not necessarily discouraging it. And I just want to make sure that that's what we're doing when we pass these plans.
We did have, just kind of add to that, we did have, I think it was about 13 people come to, and we have like 13 meetings, the steering committee meetings. So yes, it wasn't a great representation, but again, we sent a bunch of emails out to get people to come. So I don't know who you're talking to that doesn't feel it's represented, but we did have a couple years worth of committee meetings. We literally had 13 meetings here in the other room down the hall, and this is what they told us. So
What would be the time frame in terms of, us making a recommendation on this?
there is no time frame. I mean, we were going to present it to you, and then if y'all were satisfied with it, then we would start the formal, the publishing in the paper and then the public hearing process. But, you're making a recommendation, and so if there's something you want us to look at, then we're happy to do that.
I think my only real concern, was 3,900 households that it went out to, but the responses were 130, 140. It's just not very many people. And so, obviously, people got to choose who was going to participate, but back to Commissioner Lightfoot's point, that does give me a little bit of hesitation as to how well it represents. You can only do so much. It's not your fault that people don't respond, but it does make me a little bit nervous to then recommend that as the modification to the comprehensive plan.
Can you clarify, though, would we be recommending, or do you do the public notices and then go through the hearings and then we make a recommendation?
So the zoning process is the one per state law that's very clear about sending notices to people within 200 feet, and if it's an area rezoning, within the area and within 200 feet, and then the signs, and so that's the zoning process. That's to change the entitlement, the legal entitlement that somebody can do. This is just a guide. So this requires, it's an amendment to the comprehensive plan, so it requires I think it's a 15-day newspaper notification, but this is something that the governing body is permitted to do. But state law is very clear that this is not an entitlement. There's actually a phrase in state law that we have to use on our future land use maps that said this is not zoning. So you cannot take your future land use map and go to building permit and say, this is what I want to do. You have to go through, it's just a guide to direct those zoning decisions, which then can get you to building permit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how many more meetings over a period of time that you're going to, either people want to participate or they don't. And then if you wait for them, then nothing will happen.
And even just to get a little bit off topic, but with the Heritage one, which he's done a ton of meetings, we've had great outreach when we've gone to those meetings, people, we've had maps, I think it was one, we had like 5 or 6 tables going. But when it comes to having the meetings here, like 5 or 6 people. So we've learned we have to go to them, we learned that, we knew that from the very beginning. But when it comes to who's going to represent and be the steering committee, we just had to use the outreach that we got from all our exercises and all of our engagement from when we were out in the field.
So the one question I got is, do we know how many households are in this affected area and approximately how many businesses?
Troy does.
I don't recall, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know, 1,500 or so, but he would know off the top of his head.
How did we determine the 3,900 notices that were sent out and for the 24 businesses? How was that determined?
That was, I believe, all of the property owners. So we drew the line on the map, and it's all the DCAT information. And so it was all the property owners, and if it wasn't an owner, it was the tenant. And then, of course, it was the businesses, and if they were not the owners, it was the tenant.
Okay.
Is this similar to what it was done at the Heritage District area?
But, so in regards of neighborhood planning?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same planning process, yes.
And how did it turn out at the Heritage District area? Was this for a positive change? And what was the feedback y'all got during that time and the responses that y'all got during that time?
Well, for the Heritage District, we're still in the final stage of the planning process where we're meeting with the stakeholders to review future land use, community priorities as well. We had a kickoff meeting where with approximately 50 people. I attended probably more than 20 community events with Irving ISD, some churches, organization with the police department, Heritage, yes, the Friends of the Museum, Heritage Society, and any other activity that I was invited to. So far, the activities went well. People were willing to talk to me because how they were in the environment, they felt comfortable. So yeah, I didn't have any complaints other than just share what they would like to see within the Heritage District area.
Okay, but it's not final.
No, it's not. It's not. We're still in the final process where how in nursery we met with stakeholders and there were probably around 10 to 13 meetings. So we're in the similar process where we have some stakeholders helping me revise the future land use that we heard from the community and eventually revise also the community priorities that were identified through those conversations.
I guess my question is more, have you all done this before, and what has been the feedback you all have gotten after it has been completed?
So this is the first neighborhood plan. And that was one of the first slides. It's like, why did we choose this one to be the first? It's because they had some established neighborhoods, not some active, not quite so active. The location between PUD 6 and the Heritage, the downtown district. So there were several reasons that we picked this one. And we knew, I think it's like 80-something% Hispanic, so we had a feeling there wasn't going to be a great representation of the Hispanic community. But we still obviously felt it was important enough, and we did get the surveys, we did have the La Michoacana, so they did engage with us when we were, in their world. Would we have liked them to come to the meetings more regularly? Yes, of course. But no, this is the first one, and when we proposed the neighborhood planning program to council, we had several different reasons. One of which is so that they are engaged with the vision. The staff shouldn't say, this is what you want, this is what you think, is that good? That's not the way this works. And if we ever had a neighborhood that decided that they didn't want to do it, then we would stop and we would go to the next neighborhood. We're not going to force any neighborhood to go through this planning process because it takes a lot of engagement and a lot of work. We're also hoping to build people outside of the neighborhood planning process to become more engaged citizens and get into committees, maybe do Irving 360, just be a part, be more aware of how the city operates. We're also hoping that, that they may create neighbor associations out of this. Sometimes, I like to say zoning has a way of bringing people together, and sometimes it's negative, but maybe this is a positive way, because usually they're coming together and they're opposing some development, and that's how they get to know each other. Well, maybe this is a way to get to know each other, and maybe they turn this into a registered neighborhood association, and then they have a president, and they have a board, and they get bylaws, and they start to really engage with the city, and get the communications from the communications department, and then that, they can trickle down. They've got their, there's some really great things that a neighbor association can do. If we can help be a framework to that and have a reason for them to be together and have something to do, because we're creating this plan, but also we want them to implement this plan. This is not for the city to do. This is for everybody to do, the nonprofits, the churches, the neighbors, everybody. So there's several different reasons that we see a lot of value just in the neighborhood planning process.
Just, I guess, based on experience on, I guess, other cities, will this affect anyhow property values or a price per square foot on leasing commercial space?
I never want to comment on values or leases or anything like that. It's the plan helps set the guide. I mean, it's the market is the one that has to make it happen. The market is the one that has to decide that they want to invest in that area. Sometimes there's assembling that has to happen. So if the market is so interested in the area, that is what would increase the property values. If our vision helps do that, great. But the market and the people who are going to be buying the properties and developing are the ones that are going to have to actually ultimately increase any value.
So one quick question. This is different from the Heritage District to a certain degree. It's similar, we're doing the similar thing, but this one is done by the citizens per se and not funded by the city. Different from the Heritage?
No. No.
Okay.
Yeah. They're all, everything is the same structure. They're all obviously going to be a little bit different, but the process, and again, we may learn as we go. This is the first one, and there's things that'll be good, things that'll be bad, and we're totally open to that. I mean, that's just the way it works when you grow. But no, it's the same structure so far.
So if we have a problem or we start seeing there's an issue in this area with what we're doing, we can always come back and revisit and...
Nothing is forever.
Okay.
Yeah, a plan, whether it's the
But the city
citywide
moves
comprehensive
slow and
plan.
sometimes developers like...
Well, it depends. I mean, we
Yeah.
do CPs and ZCs all the time, so that can be done. But, land use plans, comprehensive plans are a living document. And that's part of the problem is when they are done and then 5-10 years later, you haven't touched it. Because we're about to do a fiscal analysis process that you're going to see, hopefully in May, that'll probably be your presentation, and then use that as the basis for our comprehensive planning. And to just have a kind of a different perspective. So everything is always alive. Everything is always moving.
You mentioned that if a neighborhood didn't want to participate, that, could just move on, but how would you know that a neighborhood didn't want to participate?
If they just quit engaging.
If they don't attend our meeting.
3,900 notices going out and 140.
If I'm
That's-
for the final meeting, we partner with the table. They knocked doors and they invited more than 300 people to this final meeting. They had their own activities and they allow us to use the building for our final to present the final draft. So within those
How many
people,
came to that?
well, the people who wanted to talk to us were around 60. There were more people who just didn't care, but that's how it is.
I think I agree with Commissioner Skinner. I mean, you send out 3,900 notices, you got 150 people. By Jocelyn's terminology is what she said, if they don't want to participate, then they just quit communicating. I think that's a sign they just quit communicating.
But there were a group of people who didn't quit. They kept coming to the meetings, and we cannot just also ignore them. They were attending the.
I agree. I mean, I agree. I just,
But now, with the idea of having a neighborhood plan, the goal is to revise it as well within a number of years. It's a life document, and if we see the demands go to a different pattern, or people see an opportunity to make changes to it, then we can definitely gather and start conversations again.
Did you have representation from each of the areas at the meetings? Like, was there one area that nobody came from that area at all?
It was mostly Owens Point and Guarweiler Heights. I think South Austin used to be more engaged, and they weren't as much. And then, was it North Austin Heights, I think was the other one. They weren't engaged.
It seems to me like you had mentioned the Heritage District, and there was a lot of momentum there, a lot of turnout, and that's not the case here. And I think more to Commissioner Skinner's point, if there's, these neighborhoods are right next to each other, so it almost appears that there isn't really the interest there. And I'm also a little concerned that, you're taking the opinions of a few people in certain parts of that district, and we're, imposing their opinions on this whole district when you don't have that critical mass of engagement.
What we for nursery, we gave the opportunity to residents who never seen this plan before at the meeting with the table, and most of them welcomed the ideas that were collected in the past meetings. So that's a guidance for us to determine that we're not in the wrong path. Again, once if this gets adopted, then there will be opportunity to revise in the near future. But again, all of this is a guidance. There's many things that need to happen for things to get implemented. But what people focus most of the time is on the community priorities, more than just the future land use, to be honest.
Is there something that kind of distills the extent of changes being made from the current comprehensive plan?
What do you mean distills? The slides have the before and after on purpose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those kind of cover it. Okay.
Yeah, we try to be very transparent of what we're changing it from and to.
I personally don't have a problem with this. I think the process works really well to the degree that you get participation from the residents and business owners and investors. If they care, they come. I don't think planning and zoning developed this plan in a vacuum. These are experts at what they do, and so the changes that were proposed by residents made sense to staff as well. We've made these changes before in our comprehensive plan when we've reviewed and tweaked things a little bit. And if there is an opportunity where an investor feels they can develop a piece of land, and they come to us because the comprehensive plan doesn't suit what they believe they can use that land for, then we make the change. So I personally don't have a problem with any of this. Are you looking for us to make a decision tonight to pass this back to P&D, or?
No, we'll never give you something the same day asking for a decision.
Okay.
So this was just a presentation. If y'all are satisfied and give us direction to proceed with the recommendation process, then we would publish in the newspaper and bring it back for your April agenda. And so it'd be April 6th, back to you, and then it'd be on the April 16th council agenda, if that's what we do.
And that is only for the comprehensive plan, not zoning.
Correct, absolutely. It's not, The zoning, there may be, and we didn't do it in this one, but I know in Heritage, we've talked with people about, and it wouldn't be part of the process, but part of the next steps or the policy could be to carry some of the future land use changes into the zoning process, which would, it's a whole different thing, it's council direction and notifications, and area rezoning is not simple, but it can be done. It's just a very intricate process. But that is not what this is.
And then when you think about neighborhood plan, it's a new tool, it's a different tool for the community, and then maybe somebody never heard of it, but it just take one person to learn about it, to start a movement, to start something, and gather communities, to start, gather people from the community to start a project. So it's not only expecting funding or other entities to do something, but this is a way for community to work together on something.
Following up actually on something Debbie said, one thing that would be really helpful to me at least would be more information about why y'all would recommend these changes. I think it's really valuable to have the feedback to the extent, I mean, y'all did heroic efforts to get people to give you feedback in terms of what they were looking for, interested in, and to the extent you didn't get as much responses as you probably would have liked, that's not through any fault of your own. But y'all do have a lot of expertise in this area, and it would be really helpful to have also the sense of why these particular changes to the comprehensive plan would be ones that y'all would recommend. Why looking at it, they make sense to y'all in terms of it. So, though we didn't talk as much about that today, but that would be useful, at least from my perspective, if we're then going to be recommending it.
The future land use or the policies themselves? What are you thinking?
Whatever modifications to the comprehensive plan that we would be recommending.
Okay. We'll go, just pick a sample, just go back to one of them. We on the left-hand side of all of the slides, we did get kind of a status and a justification as to why we thought, like this one, you've got Owens Corning, which is obviously good, they're not going anywhere. Love Owens Corning, just somewhere else. But this is what we have. So instead of being industrial, which is a little heavier and dirtier, we thought, okay, then do the warehouse, which could serve as a buffer to the Owens Corning. So
Yeah.
we tried to be explanatory in these slides.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, some of that along Pioneer was one of the reasons it occurred to me is we've had some cases come up along Pioneer, and this seemed to be recommending something different than what we had discussed previously in our meetings in terms of what y'all's recommendations were. And so that's why the change in the recommendation would be helpful to have a sense of along that Pioneer area. We recommended against, I think, a couple of changes, zoning changes that came before us in that area, in part based on y'all's recommendation. And so that would be valuable information to really evaluate why the change is appropriate now when it wasn't, 6 months or a year ago.
So here's one of the perfect examples. You're talking about Owens Corning going from industrial to manufacturing warehouse. That's understandable. There's a lot of that there. But you got Signal Metal right up from them, and that's totally industrial. It's never going to change, sort of like Owens Corning probably will never change. But by making that overhead change, what does that affect on his property as far as his value?
I don't know which one the Signal Metal is. You'd have to tell me.
Straight
which
up
one that
top,
is.
right above Owens Corning, right there at Nursery and
bright
Pioneer.
red?
Nope, down. That's the storage, that one right there.
Okay.
Yep, the red one.
Yeah. So again, this is just the future land use. So what we're saying is that industrial, because we have talked to somebody about using this site and the adjacency to residential, and we have a lot of places over town where you've got, residential next to warehouse, for better or worse, and that's just a constant compatibility issue we're working through. Trucks and noise and I call them OSHA beeps, next to a residential area is something that we are constantly having to be sensitive with, and it's all over town. So here, again, back to what we said earlier, the zoning is what has the entitlement. So I think this is actually ML20A, which could allow some of the heavier, I think, truck terminals and auto repair and things like that, whereas the manufacturing warehouse would be more internal activities, or there may be some lay-down yards or outside storage, but most of the activities should occur inside. They have ML20A. They can do whatever ML20A says. It doesn't matter what the future land use is. But if they're going to rezone it, then we would look at the future land use and say, this is what the future land use says it should be, and this is why, and then the P and Z and City Council would make the decision.
So by right, if Signal Metal was to buy Owens Corning, both of them have ML 20A, they would not have to come back in front of this committee to build
No.
whatever they want.
They have, their zoning is their legal entitlement.
Okay.
So I find it interesting because we've had a number of, one or two cases on that green strip that runs horizontal between,
Go to the other one that's got, keep going. There you go.
Oh,
No, no, no.
That one?
No, keep going. Keep the one that's the strip on Pioneer.
yeah,
Keep going.
This one?
Nope, keep going. Keep going. Did we pass it? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, maybe we passed it then. I'm just talking about the one north of Owens Corning.
yeah.
Is it this one?
No, keep going. The one.
This
the
one at the
I-
bottom?
Okay.
At the bottom.
Okay, I didn't realize it was on the same, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I worry about that strip because it's residential and it's just a horrendous for those
Yeah.
for those property owners. So why would you not, and why would this neighborhood association not have considered those homes that are right there? Now, again, by right, they can stay there because they're there. But wouldn't we want to modify that?
Well, and to Josh's point, when some of those came through, it is currently all traditional neighborhood for single family, so we would have honored that. But,
And we had a lot of nearby residents who were very vocal about that, if I remember correctly, wanting it to remain traditional neighborhood.
yeah, because what this would do is as the zoning cases came through, we would look at it and see the local commercial, and therefore it would be supported as a change versus keeping it as residential, if that's the case. That's the way this would be used.
So maybe I could propose something. We have the the nursery plan is in our packet for this evening. So may I encourage everybody to review that plan now that you've had this discussion? Review it and then be prepared with any further questions in our April meeting.
Sure.
And then if we're comfortable with whatever questions and answers at that time, we can move it forward. If not, we may have to delay it again for some further input.
Sure.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, and just to add, I thought this Pioneer Street one is the one that caught my attention too. So it may be helpful in this. I do agree that it makes sense to move forward, but this would be a good example of getting a little bit more information about just the neighborhood, maybe input specific to this neighborhood, and like what would be involved in this change or reasons why it might not make sense. That would be helpful.
Yeah, I also think along those same lines is, why are they recommending to change something from a neighborhood to local commercial? Where do they expect that local commercial to come from if it's not
Especially
already
across from
there?
a plant, which
Yeah.
only has tractor trailers and employees coming through.
Yeah, sometimes the reason we did it is just like we were saying there, is because it provides, the plant, I'm guessing, normally when you have an industry like that, the people in the immediate area, the people who work in the industry. That is not the case as much anymore, but in this, Ricky, how old is this plant? 40s, 50s? I mean, do you know when this plant came in? The Owens Corning? 50s, okay, so I was guessing 50s, so. Okay. Okay. So it's very typical for people who worked for it to live that closely. Therefore, they didn't mind as much because that was what was paying the bills. That, of course, has changed over time as people moved away, whatever. But that leaves the residential right across from this plant. So it's having small business come in, maybe small, landscaping type places or something like that that could use the house for an office. 'Cause those are some of them are decent sized lots. So there is a way that some small local type businesses or small scale businesses could serve as a buffer from that heavier industrial to the residential to the north. That was the thought here.
Okay. Are those residents vacant though, or are people live in
Yeah.
those? Yeah.
And there's an empty lot there.
So some of the things that we probably need to consider on some of these changes is you take like Owens Corning, I don't know, I was probably 30 years ago or whatever, they had an incident at the plant, and when it went off, it literally blew windows out for blocks. It shook houses, it did everything when it went off, so that's one of the safety things that we need to really keep in consideration when we're looking at a lot of this, as far as putting in these type developments right next to residentials, because the world's a perfect place, nothing happens, but if one of their pieces of equipment malfunctions, then we have a major problem.
And that's where that transition, again, I talked about it being many places across town. That's where we constantly have that kind of barrier between the two. And which one do you protect? How do you protect them? What's the mitigation? It's a constant discussion.
So while everyone is reviewing this between now and the next meeting in early April, I would encourage you to maybe drive through past some of these neighborhoods with these slides specifically in mind. For me, it's important because I don't live down here, so I need a little bit more perspective now that I've had this presentation from you all. Okay, we're closing in towards our public hearing time, so perhaps the Irving Heritage District, Abraham, will have you come back another time.
Sure.
Are there any meetings that you have, public meetings for the Heritage District plan in the near future?
We are scheduling a next meeting this month, probably the last Thursday of the month. However, that's something that I need to talk to the stakeholders so they help us coordinate those.
Well, and I would encourage you all to go to this. I went to the Irving Heritage Society, had one of these very first ones where you had the 5 maps out at the museum location. It's really worthwhile seeing this process, how they do it. So if you have an opportunity to go to that meeting, I would, Jocelyn, if you'll let us know when it is, maybe people
we can send it
could
out.
clear their
Yeah, of
schedule
course.
to do it.
Yeah, tonight's presentation was intended to be heritage plan oriented as much as just educational, just what is the Heritage District, how did we get here, just.
Oh, good.
As a reminder for those of y'all who've been here for a little while, informational for the people, for you guys who are new. But so tonight's wasn't trying to wasn't trying to queue up a neighborhood plan as much as just being informative on what is the Heritage District and what's the vision for it.
I can always use context. All right, so we're going to hold on the overview of the Irving Heritage District. Any future agenda items? Any thoughts for that? All right, thank you. The work session is adjourned at 6:57 p.m. We'll take 5 or so minutes and meet in the public hearing room.